For more than 3 decades, Johnny Carson welcomed Hollywood's biggest legends into America's living rooms with charm, laughter, and effortless grace. To millions, every guest looked polished, talented, and beloved. But once the applause faded and cameras stopped rolling, Carson often saw a far darker side. Behind the fame were egos, cruelty, and shocking behavior the public never knew about. These are the stars Johnny Carson privately considered the worst of them all. Number 1. Jerry Lewis. To the public, Jerry Lewis was one of the biggest entertainers of his era. He was known for wild comedy, box office success, and charity telethons that made millions admire him. On screen, he seemed energetic, funny, and larger than life. But according to people who worked around Johnny Carson, the man behind the scenes was far different from the lovable image audiences knew. Whenever Jerry Lewis appeared on The Tonight Show, staff members reportedly became tense before he even arrived. While many stars demanded attention, Lewis was said to carry himself as if everyone in the studio existed only to serve him. Crew members claimed he often ignored basic courtesy, speaking to employees with little respect and calling them by their job titles instead of their names. To Johnny Carson, who valued professionalism and treated staff kindly, that behavior stood out immediately. One appearance became especially memorable. During rehearsal, a cameraman quietly coughed while equipment was being adjusted. According to accounts from behind the scenes, Lewis suddenly stopped everything and exploded in anger. He reportedly berated the camera operator in front of others, insisting the interruption was unacceptable. The room fell silent. What seemed minor to everyone else became a full scene because of his temper. Carson disliked chaos on set, but what bothered him more was how Jerry treated people with less power. Johnny had worked his way up in television and respected the crew who made every show possible. Seeing a celebrity humiliate workers over small things reportedly angered him far more than any rude comment directed at himself. Even on camera, tension could sometimes be seen. Lewis had a habit of interrupting, dominating conversations, and pulling attention back to himself whenever possible. On one occasion, he reportedly adjusted Carson's tie without permission in a playful but controlling gesture. Number 2. Joan Crawford. To movie fans, Joan Crawford represented classic Hollywood elegance. She was glamorous, disciplined, and carried herself like royalty. When she appeared on The Tonight Show, viewers saw a polished legend with perfect posture, graceful smiles, and carefully chosen words. She looked every bit like the timeless star America had admired for decades. But behind the curtain, staff members claimed they witnessed someone entirely different. Long before the cameras rolled, Crawford's visit reportedly became complicated. Production assistants were given a list of detailed requests covering everything from lighting angles to room temperature. Her chair placement, makeup setup, and even the studio environment were said to need exact precision. While many stars had preferences, Crawford's demands were described as unusually strict, creating pressure for everyone involved. But what truly left an impression was not the requests, it was how she treated people depending on their status. According to stories shared by former staff, Crawford was warm and charming with Johnny Carson and senior producers, but far colder toward assistants and younger employees. One incident was remembered for years. A young production assistant allegedly entered her dressing room with something Crawford had requested. Instead of gratitude, the assistant was met with a harsh verbal attack that reportedly left her in tears. Crew members said the mood in the hallway instantly changed. People who had been excited to meet a Hollywood legend were suddenly stunned by how quickly kindness turned into cruelty. Carson's team valued smooth productions and respectful behavior, especially toward younger staff members trying to build careers. Moments like that were not forgotten. Then came the transformation once the camera started. Witnesses claimed Crawford could switch personalities in an instant. Off camera, she sat stiff, quiet, and expressionless. Number 3. Frank Sinatra. To the world, Frank Sinatra was the definition of cool. He had the voice, the swagger, and a level of fame few entertainers in history could match. Audiences loved his charm, confidence, and effortless style. When he appeared on The Tonight Show, viewers saw two icons sharing laughs and stories. On camera, everything looked smooth and respectful. But behind the scenes, people close to the show said Johnny Carson felt very differently. Carson admired talent, and no one questioned Sinatra's. But according to longtime insiders, Johnny was disturbed by how the singer treated people when he thought no one important was watching. Staff members claimed Sinatra often arrived with a large entourage made up of intimidating men who created tension the moment they entered the building. Crew members described the atmosphere as uncomfortable, as if everyone suddenly had to watch every word they said. One backstage moment reportedly stayed with Carson for years. Before a segment, a floor manager gave Sinatra the routine warning that he would be going on soon. It was standard procedure used with every guest. Instead of accepting it, Sinatra allegedly grabbed the man by his tie, pulled him close, and made it clear no one would tell him when to appear. Witnesses said the room froze. The floor manager, an older veteran respected by staff, was shaken by the encounter. Carson, who saw much of the chaos through backstage monitors, was furious. He respected the people who worked behind the cameras and hated seeing them bullied. Though producers convinced him to continue the segment, the mood had changed before the interview even began. There were also reports that Sinatra frequently canceled or changed plans at the last minute, creating problems for producers and forcing staff to scramble. For a show built on timing and discipline, unpredictability from a major guest caused major headaches. Number 4. Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney was once one of the biggest names in Hollywood. As a young star, he dominated the box office, worked with the industry's biggest talents, and became a symbol of classic American entertainment. By the time he appeared on The Tonight Show, audiences viewed him as a nostalgic legend, a lively reminder of Hollywood's golden age. But behind the scenes, many staff members said Rooney's visits created tension rather than celebration. At first, his appearances seemed harmless. Rooney still had energy, stories, and the quick personality that once made him famous. But according to people who worked on the show, problems often began the moment he entered the studio. Younger female staff members reportedly felt uneasy around him because of behavior they considered inappropriate. Several accounts claimed he regularly crossed professional boundaries with flirtatious comments, unwanted touching, and an attitude that treated discomfort as a joke. Production assistants were often responsible for helping guests with water, schedules, and dressing room needs. Some later recalled that Rooney would grab their hands, hold their wrists too long, or try pulling them closer while speaking. What may have once been excused in another era now felt invasive and unsettling. Staff members said some women even asked to be reassigned when they learned Rooney would be appearing. For Johnny Carson, professionalism mattered deeply. He understood that many older stars came from a different generation, but he still believed there were lines no guest should cross. Rooney reportedly seemed confused whenever his behavior was criticized, as if he genuinely did not understand why anyone objected. There were also concerns about Rooney's condition during certain visits. According to crew members, he sometimes appeared visibly disoriented or intoxicated. Number 5. Orson Welles. Orson Welles was one of the most celebrated minds in entertainment history. He was the brilliant force behind Citizen Kane, a gifted actor, director, writer, and storyteller whose reputation carried almost mythical status. When he appeared on The Tonight Show, audiences saw a commanding presence with a booming voice, sharp wit, and endless fascinating stories. But while viewers were entertained, those working behind the scenes often saw a very different side. Johnny Carson respected talent, and few people had more of it than Welles. Yet according to longtime staff members, Carson grew frustrated with the way Welles treated the show itself. Unlike most guests who understood the timing and structure of late-night television, Welles reportedly acted as if normal rules did not apply to him. Problems often started before he even sat down. Writers would prepare questions and topics to help shape a strong interview, but insiders claimed Welles sometimes dismissed everything they created. On certain visits, he allegedly crossed out prepared notes and rejected planned talking points altogether, leaving Carson to improvise in real time with little structure. That might have been manageable if Wells respected time limits, but staff said he often did the opposite. One appearance became infamous when he was scheduled for a short segment yet continued talking far beyond the allotted time. Carson used subtle signals guests usually recognized when it was time to wrap up, but Wells reportedly ignored every one of them and kept speaking. Producers were forced to cut or delay other segments because of it. For a show built around precision timing, that behavior created chaos. Every minute mattered, and when one guest took more than his share, everyone else paid the price. Crew members also described Wells as dismissive toward junior staff. Number 6. Bette Davis. Bette Davis was one of the most respected actresses of the Golden Age. With multiple Academy Awards, unforgettable performances, and a fearless screen presence, she had earned a reputation as one of Hollywood's true giants. When she appeared on The Tonight Show, audiences saw a sharp, witty legend filled with stories from a remarkable career. She was entertaining, intelligent, and impossible to ignore. But once the cameras stopped, many insiders said her famous intensity turned into something far less charming. Johnny Carson appreciated strong personalities, and Davis certainly had one. Yet according to former staff members, her appearances were often accompanied by tension because of how quickly she could become cutting, hostile, or dismissive. She was known for blunt opinions, but backstage those opinions reportedly came with little concern for who they hurt. One recurring issue involved other guests. When Davis appeared on multi-guest episodes, insiders claimed she disliked sharing attention. If another celebrity began getting laughs or applause, she would reportedly interrupt, speak over them, or redirect the conversation back to herself. Some said she would physically turn away while others spoke, making her displeasure obvious. For Carson, who worked hard to keep every guest comfortable, that behavior created difficult moments. His job depended on balance and flow, and Davis often disrupted both. Backstage, matters could become worse. Crew members alleged she sometimes arrived already drinking or requested alcohol before taping. While that alone was not unusual for stars of her generation, some said it intensified her already sharp temperament. Makeup artists, assistants, and cue card holders were among those who occasionally found themselves on the receiving end of cutting remarks. One rehearsal reportedly became unforgettable when Davis angrily criticized a cue card assistant for not moving quickly enough. Number 7. Zsa Zsa Gabor. Zsa Zsa Gabor was one of the most recognizable personalities of her time. With glamorous style, a playful accent, and a reputation for wit, she became a favorite of talk shows and television audiences. Whenever she appeared on The Tonight Show, viewers expected laughter, flirtation, and unpredictable fun. On camera, she was lively and entertaining, often stealing the spotlight with ease. But behind the scenes, many staff members said her visits were some of the most exhausting the show ever handled. Johnny Carson understood that certain guests came with demands. Fame often created habits, and he usually tolerated harmless eccentricities if the person delivered great television. But according to former employees, Gabor's requests went far beyond the usual celebrity preferences. Long before she arrived, producers were reportedly sent detailed lists of requirements. Her dressing room needed to be kept at a specific temperature. Fresh flowers had to be waiting, but only certain types were acceptable. Bottled water had to be prepared exactly as requested, down to the number of ice cubes. Some accounts even claimed she wanted her own beauty staff or lighting arrangement separate from the show's normal setup. At first, crew members thought some of the requests were jokes. But they quickly learned they were not. If anything was missing or not done exactly right, Gabor was said to delay leaving her dressing room until the problem was fixed. That meant tapings could run late, schedules had to be rearranged, and everyone else, from producers to fellow guests, was forced to wait. One incident reportedly became legendary among the staff. After arriving for a taping, Gabor discovered the makeup department did not have her preferred brand of foundation. Witnesses said she became furious and demanded someone be sent immediately to purchase the correct product. Number 8. Shelley Winters. Shelley Winters was a two-time Academy Award-winning actress with a career that stretched across decades of Hollywood history. She had worked with major directors, survived the changing tides of the film industry, and built a reputation as someone who never held back. When she appeared on The Tonight Show, audiences saw a sharp, outspoken woman who could deliver stories with confidence and personality. But behind the scenes, staff members often described her appearances as unpredictable and exhausting. Johnny Carson respected strong voices, but Winters was something else entirely. According to crew members, she did not simply speak her mind, she overwhelmed the room with it. Conversations could shift suddenly from light entertainment to intense personal opinions, political commentary, or emotional outbursts that were difficult to steer back on track. One of the biggest challenges for Carson was control. His strength as a host was guiding conversations smoothly, but with Winters, that control often disappeared. Staff recalled moments where a simple question about a film would turn into a long, unplanned monologue about society, politics, or her personal experiences, leaving Carson waiting for a natural pause that sometimes never came. Producers said it felt like trying to manage a storm. Carson would attempt subtle redirections, but Winters often continued speaking as if the structure of the show did not exist. For a program built on timing and flow, that unpredictability created real difficulties behind the scenes. Her intensity was not limited to words. Winters had a reputation for strong reactions in public settings as well. Crew members were aware of stories from other shows where she had become physically dramatic during disagreements, which made staff at The Tonight Show extra cautious when she was booked. Anything on set that could be knocked over or used in frustration was reportedly moved beforehand, just in case. Number 9. Jane Russell. Jane Russell was one of Hollywood's classic sex symbols, a major star of the 1940s and 1950s whose beauty and screen presence made her unforgettable. With films like The Outlaw and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, she earned a permanent place in film history. When she appeared on The Tonight Show, audiences expected nostalgia, charm, and stories from Hollywood's golden era. On camera, she often delivered exactly that, graceful, composed, and confident, but according to people who worked behind the scenes, Russell's relationship with the show became complicated over time, not because of her performance on air, but because of her private behavior and strong opinions expressed off-camera. Johnny Carson was known for keeping his show welcoming and relatively neutral. He wanted guests from all backgrounds and avoided turning interviews into political battlegrounds. However, staff members claimed that Russell sometimes expressed very rigid and controversial opinions backstage, especially regarding social and political issues. While these comments were not part of the broadcast, they reportedly created discomfort among crew members and some guests. One of the key concerns, according to insiders, was how she interacted with certain staff. People working on the show included individuals from diverse backgrounds, and Carson was known for treating his team with respect and expecting guests to do the same. Some accounts suggested that Russell made dismissive remarks about members of the production team, which did not align with the atmosphere Johnny tried to maintain. There were also reports of tension involving booking decisions. In a few cases, it was said she preferred not to appear alongside certain guests, and some of those preferences reportedly reflected personal biases that made producers uneasy. While none of this played out dramatically on camera, it added quiet friction behind the scenes.